Today on UMTV News, the latest on the deadly wildfires that have taken over the New York-New Jersey border.
Plus, a new era of anti-climate change policy is expected to return with Trump's return to the White House, but we will tell you what experts have to say.
And later on, a week after Election Day, President-elect Trump has started assembling his cabinet. We'll tell you what roles one of the Florida senators will likely hold in it.
All that and more on today's show. UMTV News starts right now.
Hello and welcome to UMTV News. I'm Max Keller.
And I'm Kayla Butter. Thank you for joining us. Fire crews are working to contain a wildfire burning along the New York-New Jersey border. The Jennings Creek wildfire has burned thousands of acres and it's threatening dozens of structures. And current drought conditions are contributing to the fire. Thousands of acres near the New York and New Jersey border have been burned by the Jennings Creek wildfire since it sparked last week.
We are asking for people that live on Cliff Road and Greenwood Lake to voluntarily evacuate. People in other areas, be prepared to.
Historic drought conditions are fueling the fire, aided in part by wind and dry air. Chris Franek with the New Jersey Forest Fire Service says the rugged terrain is also a challenge for their response.
It's making access to go fight the fire hard to get equipment in there because some areas it's too steep for bulldozers to go to.
Fire crews from New Jersey and New York are working together, attacking the fire from the ground and from the sky, working to contain it and keep it from threatening homes and other structures in the area. Some who live there are being encouraged to leave.
Police knocked on our door like maybe an hour or two ago and just said, if you guys want to get a bag ready and if you have somewhere to go, maybe you should go.
Franek says one volunteer firefighter was treated for smoke inhalation over the weekend. An 18-year-old Dariel Vasquez died Saturday while working as a volunteer New York State Forest Ranger. In a GoFundMe page, his family describes him as, quote, a true hero, someone who lived his life with purpose, who put others before himself. This is one of several fires that have burned in the Northeast recently. New York has not had one wildfire season like this since 2002. Meanwhile, New Jersey has responded to 537 wildfires so far this year. That's 500 more than the same period last year.
Florida is home to some of the most vocal anti-climate change politicians, including Governor Ron DeSantis and Senator Rick Scott, who was just re-elected for a second term. Ariel Weil is here to tell us what experts have to say about the crossroads of climate and politics. Ariel?
Donald Trump, who is a known climate change denier, will be returning to the White House in January, and the expectations are that he will drastically derail the United States climate agenda. Voters also gave Republicans control of the Senate, laying the groundwork for a tax on clean energy funding and massive support for the fossil fuel industry. Re-elected Republican Senator Rick Scott has positioned himself as a leading figure in implementing Donald Trump's agenda.
Florida has always been especially vulnerable to extreme weather, but experts say the state is facing a new era of even more dangerous storms fueled by human-driven climate change.
So from a Category 1 to a Category 3 hurricane, the amount of damage potential is like 40 to 50 times higher.
The frequency of extreme weather events is increasing, leaving less time to recover after each disaster.
So the days between disasters, which right now I believe Climate Central just came out with a new estimate, it's like 9.5 days. It used to be 80 days decades ago.
Government agencies such as FEMA are getting stretched thin.
All of this funding and help went to North Carolina to help with the flooding after Helene. Now who's going to come and be able to help the people who just got hit by Milton?
With hit after hit, insurance companies are pulling out of the state, leaving residents to shoulder the burden.
Florida, along with California, those are two, I would say, the most well-known states for carriers pulling out of those states entirely.
Florida's leadership, including Governor Ron DeSantis, has often dismissed climate science. Meanwhile, politicians on both sides have been pointing fingers. After Hurricane Helene made landfall, Vice President Kamala Harris reached out to DeSantis multiple times, but he did not take her calls.
I've had storms under both President Trump and President Biden, and I've worked well with both of them. She's the first one who's trying to politicize the storm.
Unfortunately, right now we're seeing politics play games with people during emergencies, and it really, I think, makes the whole system lose credibility, and it makes people lose hope in the system.
Florida Senator Rick Scott recently acknowledged the changing climate, but avoided linking it to human-driven climate change, saying, quote, "Who knows what the reason is, but something is changing. Massive storms, massive storm surge. So we've got to figure this out. Absolutely something is changing. The climate is changing."
As long as it remains a polarized political issue, being that our country is more polarized than it's ever been, it becomes very difficult to translate that into climate policy success.
With Florida's future at stake, experts are calling for more awareness, better preparation, and stronger policies to address the growing threat of climate change and its impacts on both lives and livelihoods.
The question is it important enough to them to make it a voting issue for them now or in the future? Because that will determine whether or not politicians start listening.
Floridians made it clear at the polls that the environment is not a pressing voting issue for them. The future of Florida's environment lies in the hands of those elected for the next 4 years. For UMTV, I'm Ariel Weil.
Thank you, Ariel. President-elect Donald Trump will be inaugurated in 69 days, and he is getting ready for the next 4 years by tapping members of his future cabinet. Susie Wiles has been appointed to Chief of Staff, and she'll be the first woman to ever hold that position. Other notable selections include former New York Congressman Lee Zeldin as head of the Environmental Protection Agency, and Florida Representative Mike Walz as his National Security Advisor.
And while it has not yet been confirmed, those familiar with the situation believe that Trump will choose Florida Senator Marco Rubio to be his Secretary of State. It is not yet clear whether Trump has formally offered Rubio the job. The Florida senator was a finalist to become Trump's running mate before the position went to J.D. Vance. Rubio, as a 3-term senator who is currently a member of both the Senate Intelligence and Foreign Relations Committees, has experience on foreign policy.
Senator Rubio has a really excellent track record of understanding geopolitical forces, understanding national security, and understanding kind of America's leadership in this nation.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis will have to appoint a new senator who will serve out the rest of Rubio's term until 2029.
The U.S. Supreme Court will not hear an appeal from one of the January 6th rioters. John Nassif received a 7-month prison sentence for his actions in the 2021 siege on the U.S. Capitol. But in his legal challenge, he argued the law, which bans demonstrating at the Capitol, violates his First Amendment rights. An appeals court rejected that defense, responding that Capitol buildings are not open to public protests.
It's time for a short break.
But when UMTV News returns, monkeys on the loose. We'll tell you why 13 monkeys are roaming the South Carolina outdoors.
And we'll show you how one UM organization is trying to help victims of domestic violence. We'll be right back.
Monkey see, monkey do. 43 monkeys followed each other right out the door of one lab in South Carolina. 30 of them have been recovered, but 13 are still on the loose. Residents of Yamasee spotted the monkeys all around after they escaped the Alpha Genesis research facility last week. The CEO of the company said a caretaker failed to secure a door, allowing for the apes to monkey around freely. He also said the monkeys are to be used for medical research, but have not been involved in any testing that poses a public health threat.
We have had them kind of meander on back to the property, but then jump back. They're doing all the monkey things, they're just doing it on the wrong side of the fence.
While the monkeys continue to go bananas, officials ask that anyone who spots one to call 911.
Toy manufacturing company Mattel has apologized after they accidentally put a link to a pornographic website on boxes containing its new Wicked-themed dolls. Customers took to social media posting pictures of the box, which contained a link to a porn website instead of the movie's official website. Mattel issued an apology saying, quote, "We are taking immediate action to remedy this." Meanwhile, the toy is now being listed on eBay for nearly $200, which is over double the original retail price. The movie comes out in theaters on November 22nd.
One on-campus organization is making a difference and sparking essential conversations on sexual assault and domestic violence. Carolina Lugo Gomez is live to tell us more. Carolina?
That's right, Kayla. A University of Miami organization is bringing students, faculty, and community members together against violence. The Clothesline Project is a global initiative hosted by campuses around the United States. Its purpose is to raise awareness about the impact of domestic violence and sexual assault and to honor survivors. At the University of Miami, the event is hosted by the organization COPE, which stands for Counseling, Outreach, Peer Education.
Sexual assault and domestic violence awareness is very important to COPE as a mental health organization and as the main mental health organization on campus, and also as the outreach section of the Counseling Center for undergraduate students. So definitely, because that is so important to us, and this is a way to bring the community together and talk about something that's very sensitive but also very important.
Each year for Domestic Violence Awareness Month in October, they hang up t-shirts made by the UM community on a clothesline that reaches from the Richter Library to the U statue. They invite survivors and supporters to design t-shirts with messages of their experiences, hope, and support.
Student Station is providing students with all the materials that they need to be able to create the shirts. Here they can look and see the meanings of the shirts if they want to choose one with meaning, and they also have the shirts that they can use, the markers, and the pens for students to be able to create their t-shirts.
These events raise awareness, help educate others, and encourage the community to open up difficult yet critical conversations on violence and how to prevent it.
Today we're showing support for those victims and survivors of abuse and domestic abuse, and basically just providing all the resources that we have available on campus and the UMPD has to offer. We're also answering questions.
UMPD offers resources like self-defense classes, safety escorts, and safe rides.
We want to provide, like I said, just a supportive environment for the students to come to us, be able to talk about it, and we want to give them the resources in case they're not ready at the moment. Then in the future, if they want to, just want to let them know that we're always available for them.
The event provides an opportunity to educate and break the stigma surrounding issues of violence, creating a supportive space for survivors to feel encouraged and empowered.
This event really speaks to how much the community can come together and care about something so sensitive and yet so important.
For more information about students' well-being resources, you can visit www.miami.edu/counseling-center. For UMTV, I'm Carolina Lugo Gomez.
Thank you, Carolina. The most wonderful time of year is officially upon us. The Rockefeller Christmas tree arrived in New York City on Saturday. The 74-foot, 11-ton Norway spruce was donated from a family in West Stockbridge, Massachusetts. The family says the tree was planted in 1967. The tree will be decorated with more than 50,000 multicolored lights, and 3 million crystal stars will top the tree. The official tree lighting ceremony is set for December 4th. And Kayla, I actually got to go to Rockefeller Center, during Christmas a couple of years ago, and I saw the tree in person. It's pretty impressive. Have you ever been?
I have, but it's been years. I'm hoping that this year I get to go to see it.
Well, I mean, I definitely love this time of year. If I wasn't in Miami, I'd go home, make some hot cocoa. But for now, that's all the time we have for this edition of UMTV News.
We'll be back next week. Make sure to tune in. Until then, have a great week.